The air in Marcus Thorne's corner office was always different, colder, thinner, as if all the warmth and hope in the room had been meticulously extracted and replaced with the sterile scent of expensive cologne and ambition. I'd stood in that space a dozen times before, heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination, but this time was a funeral. My career was the body in the coffin, and Thorne was the priest delivering a eulogy with a smirk. "It's not personal, you understand," he said, his voice a smooth, practiced lie as he leaned back in his leather throne, the cityscape sprawling behind him like his personal kingdom. "Just a necessary restructuring. We need a new direction." My 5 years of sweat, of missed birthdays, of solutions that saved his department hundreds of thousands, it all dissolved into the meaningless hum of the air conditioner. I was a line item, expendable, but it was the laugh that sealed it. A soft, almost pitying chuckle that escaped his lips as he slid the termination letter across the polished mahogany. "Don't look so grim. A bright kid like you? You'll land on your feet." That laugh wasn't just dismissive, it was a declaration. It said I was so insignificant that my destruction was a minor amusement, a trivial piece of his day. The humiliation was a physical heat, rushing to my face as I numbly gathered the contents of my life from my desk into a cardboard box. It was in that final defeated moment, as my fingers brushed against the cold metal of my old company laptop, a device IT had been too rushed or too arrogant to properly wipe, that the first ember of a new fire began to glow in the ashes of my old self. The humiliating dismissal was not merely a termination. It was a meticulously staged execution of professional dignity, designed to maximize the psychological impact and reinforce the absolute power dynamic Marcus Thorne so cherished. The call to his office came not from his assistant, but from him directly, his voice an unerringly calm and casual invitation that immediately set every instinct on high alert. Walking past the rows of cubicles, I could feel the weight of curious glances, a silent audience to a play whose ending I had not yet read. The atmosphere inside his sanctum was a character in itself, the floor-to-ceiling windows framing a glittering, indifferent city, the air thick with the scent of lemon polish and unchecked authority. He did not rise to greet me, a deliberate breach of decorum that was the first subtle cut. Instead, he gestured to the cold leather chair opposite his desk, his focus seemingly absorbed by the screen of his phone. The silence that followed was a tactical weapon, stretching out long enough for me to catalog every mistake, every minor transgression of the past 5 years, my mind racing to find a reason for this summons. When he finally spoke, his words were not delivered with the gravity the situation demanded, but with the detached, almost bored tone of a man discarding a piece of obsolete equipment. He spoke of streamlining, shifting global paradigms, and letting go of legacy assets, corporate euphemisms that felt like ash in my mouth. My contributions, the late nights that had saved his key accounts, the innovative solutions he had personally praised, were erased with a wave of his hand. And then came the laugh. It was not a loud, mocking guffaw, but something far more corrosive, a soft, condescending chuckle that escaped as he slid the sealed envelope across the vast, empty expanse of his desk. It was a sound that contained a universe of contempt, implying that my shock, my devastation, was somehow naive, a childish reaction to the simple, brutal realities of business that he, as a master, understood completely. That single, quiet exhalation of amusement transformed the moment from a professional setback into a deeply personal violation. It was the sound of my ambition and loyalty being revealed as a foolish delusion, a game I never knew I was playing. The heat of shame flooded my face, a stark contrast to the sterile chill of the room, as the finality of the envelope's weight in my hand confirmed the utter annihilation of the world I had worked so hard to build. The directive to return all company property felt like the final, officious twist of the knife, a cold reminder that every part of my professional existence was merely on loan from an entity that could reclaim it without a second thought. The IT department, operating with the same dismissive efficiency as Thorne himself, had simply deactivated my login credentials, severing my digital tether to 5 years of my life with the click of a mouse. As I packed the sad, personal detritus of my desk, a worn coffee mug, a photo from a long-forgotten team-building event, a spare charger, my fingers brushed against the sleek, silver casing of my old laptop. It was a relic, a machine I'd been meaning to turn in for a newer model, but the chaos of projects had always postponed it. Now, it was just another piece of hardware to be surrendered, its hard drive presumably wiped clean by remote command, ready to be reassigned to another hopeful soul. A morbid curiosity, a need to see the blank, gray screen that symbolized my erased contributions, compelled me to press the power button. The machine whirred to life, and to my astonishment, it bypassed the login screen entirely, booting directly into the familiar desktop. The remote wipe had failed. IT's arrogance, their belief that their systems were infallible and their former employees too insignificant to bother with, had created a critical oversight. There, nestled among old project folders and personal documents, was a file I had never seen before, its name a cryptic string of letters and numbers that meant nothing to me. It was hidden in a system directory I rarely accessed. Opening it required a password I should not have possessed, but a forgotten sticky note tucked into my desk drawer, a relic from a long-resolved IT ticket, provided the key. The file unfolded into a labyrinth of spreadsheets and encrypted bank statements, a shadow ledger running parallel to the official books. The numbers were staggering, a trail of financial sleight of hand so brazen it was almost artistic. Here were phantom vendors, inflated invoices, and discreet transfers to offshore accounts, all meticulously documented by a man who clearly never imagined anyone would ever dare to look. Thorne's laughter still echoed in my mind, but now it was drowned out by the silent, damning testimony of his own greed. A digital ghost that had just been given a voice, the discovery of the file did not ignite a rash, vengeful fire, but rather a cold, patient fury that demanded a far more intricate and complete form of justice than a simple anonymous tip to the authorities could ever provide. A public scandal would have seen Thorne disgraced, perhaps even prosecuted, but it would have left me as merely the whistleblower, the victim who got lucky. That was not enough. The data was not a weapon to be fired in a single loud blast. It was a blueprint, a crystal ball revealing every weakness, every cut corner, and every illicit secret of Thorne's entire operation. I needed to become the architect of his downfall, not its mere catalyst. With meticulous care, I created encrypted copies, stored them in multiple, secure locations, and then scrubbed the original from the laptop, leaving no trace of my discovery. The subsequent months were a study in calculated humility. I took a seemingly junior analytical role at Viridian Dynamics, Thorne's most formidable rival, a company known for its ruthless, data-driven culture. I was a ghost at the feast, a silent observer in their strategic meetings. My first move was not a grand presentation, but a carefully crafted, anonymous email to the CEO's office, sent from an untraceable server, containing just enough verifiable information about a minor, upcoming bid from Thorne's company to be intriguing but not alarming. When the prediction proved accurate, a seed of credibility was sown. I began to use Thorne's own hidden data, not to expose him, but to anticipate his every move. I saw the clients he was doomed to lowball, the projects where his resources were overextended, the proprietary technologies he was subtly replicating. In meetings, I would offer quiet, almost hesitant suggestions, positioning my intuition as sharp market analysis. I guided my new team to poach a key account right from under Thorne's nose, citing industry chatter and financial pattern recognition. The victory was small, but it was noticed. With each successful prediction, each strategically won contract, my stature within Viridian grew. I was no longer the junior analyst. I was the rising star with an uncanny knack for understanding the competition's playbook. I was not merely seeking a job. I was conducting a long-term corporate infiltration, using the secrets of my past to meticulously build a platform of power in my future, all while the man who had laughed at my potential remained blissfully unaware that his own corruption was the very fuel for my ascent. The ascent within Viridian was not a climb but a calculated siege. Each strategic victory a stone laid in the foundation of a reputation I carefully constructed from the raw material of Thorne's own corruption. My uncanny insights became a quiet legend, earning me a place in increasingly critical strategy sessions until I found myself in the stark, modern boardroom, presenting to the stone-faced titans of the board. The topic was aggressive market expansion, and Thorne's company, Apex Dynamics, was a recurring subject of discussion, a competitor seen as irritatingly resilient. I listened as the senior executives debated the merits of a protracted market war, a costly and uncertain endeavor. Then I spoke. I laid out not a battle plan, but a blueprint for a bloodless coup. My presentation was a masterstroke of corporate judo, using the momentum of Apex's own hidden weaknesses against them. I revealed with chilling precision the specific financial pressures Thorne was facing, the exact timelines of his most vulnerable loan repayments, the key clients who were secretly dissatisfied and ripe for poaching. I did not reveal my source, attributing the intelligence to a complex web of financial forensics and deep market analysis, a story the data-driven board eagerly accepted. I presented a complete acquisition strategy, demonstrating how Viridian could launch a hostile takeover at a moment of maximum vulnerability for Apex, paying a pittance for a company that, on paper, still appeared robust. The air in the room shifted from casual interest to focused intensity. The CEO, a woman known for her ruthless pragmatism, leaned forward, her eyes alight with a cold fire. She saw it immediately, not just the acquisition but the sheer devastating elegance of the strategy. It was a checkmate move that would eliminate a rival, absorb their assets, and send a shockwave through the industry, all for a bargain price. The following week, I was summoned back to the same boardroom. The atmosphere was different, charged with a silent verdict. The CEO did not mince words. She stated that my strategy was not only approved, but that its architect was the only person who could possibly execute it with the required surgical precision. Effective immediately, I was promoted to head of corporate acquisitions, granted a formidable team, and handed the absolute authority to initiate the takeover of Apex Dynamics. The power was now official, tangible, and its first and only target was the man who had once reduced my career to a laughing matter. The air in the negotiation suite was a palpable entity, thick with the scent of old money, polished wood, and the sharp, clean fear of the cornered. The long obsidian table was a moat dividing two kingdoms, one ascendant, the other in its final crumbling hours. On one side sat the Viridian delegation, a phalanx of sharp suits and sharper expressions, their posture radiating the quiet confidence of those who hold every card. I sat at their center, the silence around me a weapon I had learned to wield. When the doors opened to admit Marcus Thorne and his beleaguered council, the shift in the room's atmosphere was seismic. His entrance, which I knew would have once been a performance of swaggering entitlement, was now just a man walking to his own execution. The arrogance had been sandblasted from his face, replaced by a pale, strained desperation. He didn't even see me at first, his eyes fixed on the Viridian CEO, already beginning a fumbling appeal. It was only when she gestured a deferential hand in my direction, stating, "Your proposal will be evaluated by our head of acquisitions," that his gaze, frantic and pleading, finally landed on me. The recognition was not instant. For a breathtaking second I was a ghost, an impossible phantom from a past he had discarded. Then his eyes widened, the blood draining from his face so completely, he seemed to become a monochrome photograph of himself. The silence stretched, a chasm into which his entire worldview collapsed. I let him hang there, let him drown in the terrifying reversal, before I finally spoke, my voice calm, level, and colder than the ice in his forgotten glass. "Marcus," I began, the informal use of his name a deliberate echo of his past condescension. "We've reviewed your company's position. It's precarious." I watched as every word landed like a hammer blow, as he finally understood that the bright kid he had laughed out of his office had not just landed on his feet, but had climbed to a peak from which he now looked down upon the ruins of Marcus Thorne's life's work. The justice was not in a shout, but in the quiet absolute authority with which I dismantled his final pathetic arguments, forcing him to confront the incontrovertible truth that his own corruption had built the very throne upon which I now sat, judging him.